Good evening, Voya.
For your time. I want to start with the Democratic Alliance. I don't know if you they held their briefing much later than they had initially said they would. Taking responsibility, all of them, taking responsibility for the outcomes, good or bad, and saying that the burden does not sit in the shoulders of an individual. By that, of course, they mean Mmusi Maimane.
Yes, indeed. It's first very interesting to contrast it with the ANC. The DA lost about 1.5 points, and the ANC far more than that, but yet the ANC is celebrated, and the DA, they're hunting the leader. Although the hunting of the leader might happen in a different way in ANC. But the DA, yes, the DA was in an awkward spot in this election, really benched from two sides, and in the end doing much better than what the polls had predicted, for better or for worse, for what they were worth a few months before that. So we saw that the DA, in all probability, had a bit of recouping of their lost support in the final weeks in a run-up, and yet they were being pressured from the left a little bit by the ANC, but not so much. And on the right, they shed some support to the Freedom Front. But in a way, that could probably mean that the DA is in a process of repositioning itself. And it will probably need the type of leadership of Mmusi Maimane. There isn't a clear other alternative in the ranks.
Well, they also acknowledge that, and I quote, "We were faced with internal challenges and significant changes in the political landscape." What could those be?
I think the most important thing that damaged the DA, especially nationally, was the Ramaphosa factor. We know many people campaigned for it and presented Ramaphosa, he was probably in a way as being under threat, and come and rescue Ramaphosa. And we saw a huge amount of vote splitting happening in this election. Also amongst DA people, not just, but also amongst DA people, where they voted DA at provincial levels and ANC to rescue Cyril at the national level. And the DA shed a significant number of voters in that field of people splitting towards the ANC. I think that had a big role. And internally, of course, there's always some policy contestation in the DA in this process of positioning themselves, repositioning, and what do they actually stand for. And there was the Patricia de Lille factor, and there was some racism, accusations of racism incidents. So it was not a good run-up to the election period for it at all.
Do you think they have it, the powerful forces within the DA, do you think they have within themselves to actually confront especially the issue of policy shifts that they need to consider if they are to grow beyond the numbers that they currently have?
I believe it is there. It won't go uncontested. But if it really wants to grow as a party, it would have to move along with not just what a good consciousness dictates, but also where the voters are, because political parties are in a market for winning over voters, and they would have to do that if they see a future for themselves. We have heard contradictory reports, even just in the course of today, as to whether the DA had actually managed to capture more black African support, or whether they had not won those. And the more definitive answer that seems to come out of the FedEx is that they did hang on to the voters they had captured, black African voters from the 2016 election, hang on to them and even increase them, but shed on the other side. And that's a very interesting phenomenon of political parties, essentially remaining the same party in name, but shifting its ideological base. But we see it all the time.
Well, the ANC, on the other hand, has a different set of issues to deal with.
Yes, the ANC is facing a massive issue. Now in its NEC, I'm sure it's almost as important, as significant as the election itself, because there will be a contest, I'm pretty sure, in this NEC meeting between those who want the ANC in terms of leadership and candidates who will be deployed to all kinds of positions to be those who are not tainted and implicated in corruption. And that was the mandate on which the ANC fought this election, that it will be good and clean and not corrupt government moving forward.
How easy or difficult is Cyril Ramaphosa going to find it to actually do those things? To promise to do those things was, of course, one thing, and clearly a lot of people believed him. But how easy or difficult is it going to be for him to do that? Exactly what he promised, deliver on his promises.
I'm sure that is still not going to be easy, because there's a huge contest as to the powers of the Integrity Commission of the ANC, for example, who will have the power also in terms of the ANC's NASREC strategic resolutions, and those are pretty much not changeable. Everybody has to adhere to those. But then, and that said, if people are implicated, they have to appear before the Integrity Commission and heard rapidly or be subjected to disciplinary committee. And yet, the Integrity Commission did not get sufficient powers from the NEC, so it has more of a type of advisory role in relation to the NEC, and the NEC can overrule that any time. And so that struggle is going to have to show what the actual colours are of the NEC. Is it an NEC that really is prepared to abide by this mandate that the ANC just got less than a week ago, 5 days ago? Or is it an NEC that's going to demonstrate in a way that this is the old ANC before this wondrous mandate, 58% in very adverse conditions?
Well, we'll see. Prof, thanks very much.
Thank you.